All right, looks like we're live. Welcome, everybody. Peace. Shalom. I muted that just in time. I was almost going to reverberate there. So, anyway, welcome on this Tuesday evening. That feels like Monday, but it's Tuesday. Hope y'all had a wonderful Tuesday. Kids in Minnesota went back to school today, most of them. So, this is the official end of the summer in Minnesota. Time to start the fall. Get ready for the winter. Hope y'all having a great day or wherever you're listening. If you're listening on the replay, I thank you for listening on the replay. If you're listening right now or tonight, I thank you for coming and listening. We got an interesting little comparison tonight. We're going to compare Genesis creation story to the flood story, and you wouldn't believe how many similarities there are. I just came across this last week, so I wanted to share it. And I think I need to turn the fan down just a second, though, because it might be a little loud. And I'm not sure if it might already be on low. So 1 second. That should do it. Just the temperature just dropped like 20 degrees. I think it was 88 degrees today. It was kind of warm, very humid. It busted out raining and it dropped like 20 degrees. And now we're going to be down into the 40s and 50s. The high is going to be 63 degrees for the next few days. So anyway, it was a hot one today, though. I'll tell you that. I'm going to try a little smaller fan. So. Anyway, the holiday weekend is over, and we are back to business. So anyway, we are going to be comparing these tonight. It's kind of an interesting study. So I have a fan with no front on it, so you got to be careful not to. I backed in today. It backed into the blades today with my leg, my bare leg. Got him in the calf a little bit. I don't know where the front of it went. It's just weird. Anyway, it's been like that a long time. So anyway, what else? I don't know what else. Really wasn't on YouTube or really really learning too much or seeing any news today. I'm not really sure. I was kind of trying to get ready for fall. I was out cleaning my porch. And it was hot out there. Man, it was hot. But anyway, we are now dipping into some cool temperatures for the next, far as the eye can see. It's not even going to be barely hit 70. Might not even get out of the 50s tomorrow. So the next couple days. So we are plummeting on our temperatures, which is fine. Great temperatures to be working outside. If you're working hard outside and it's in the 50s or low 60s, that's fine. You will not get cold and you'll not get hot. So what else? I don't know what else. Just kind of settling in from the day. I've been painting. I was painting today. I might paint when I get off of here again. Having fun doing that. I just, uh-oh. Ruh-roh. Am I still going? Yeah, okay. I thought I just, anyway. I went to touch something and it didn't like it. I need to plug my phone in so we don't die in the middle of the conversation like it did twice last week, I think. Because StreamYard is very hard. Live streaming is hard on the battery. That should do it. All right, so like I said, I'm excited about this little study tonight. It won't take long. This is what I call a short study. It's going to last one night, probably less than an hour. We're going to go over, we're going to compare the Genesis creation story in Genesis 1 and 2 with the flood story in Genesis 8. Well, 6 through 8 or whatever. Whatever you want to, however you want to do it. But anyway, both the Genesis flood story and the Genesis creation story side by side. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to pull up the screen that I need. And I'm going to put up a link for this video that I'm going to use. It's on a channel called Inspiring Philosophy. And in fact, well, hey, Grace, how you doing tonight? Good to see Grace coming in style. How was your day? You know, it got really hot and humid. And we busted out in some rain. And now the temperature's just dropped into a wonderful... Trying to get some of that cool air in my house all of a sudden. Anyway, I hope you had a wonderful Minnesota day. It was really nice here. Once it was humid though. It was hot and very humid. But once that rain hit, it's just wonderful now. I had the windows closed because it was hot out there, but anyway. Nice, cool, fresh, cool air right now. Oh, I got a mosquito. No mosquito got in. I do have a screen, and I've been working in my bathroom, so anyway, I got a window in the bathroom that the cats and the dogs realized that they could walk up to and stick their head in it. And the cats, I think it was the cats, broke a corner of the screen open in the corner of the screen enough to push through and get outside and then get back in when they want. So they've messed up my screen, and I think that's why I'm getting get an occasional fly in here and occasional mosquito. I didn't hold no door open today, that's for sure. But anyway, I think they're getting in that breached screen back in my bathroom. Dogs like to just walk up. It's the window is low enough where the dogs can walk up and look in, and the cats can too. The cats go in and out. And most of the windows here are low enough to the ground where the dogs can see in. No rain here. Had a fantastic day though. Hope you did too. Yes, I did. It was a wonderful day. I worked and I worked and I worked. Worked on my bathroom, and that's my little ongoing project. And then I worked outside too. Worked on my porch, worked outside. That hawk flew through my, busted through my porch window. Oh, I got another mosquito. And they're thick in here. What the heck's going on? I think it's that bathroom window. I opened it for ventilation when I was painting, and like I said, I think they're coming in there. You know, the mosquitoes have not been bad for all summer. They've actually been pretty good. In the beginning, in the spring, they were bad, and then last month or two, it's not been bad at all. And all of a sudden, I just got bit twice, so I don't know. I think that rain just brought them all out of the woodwork. They love rain. The mosquitoes love rain. That's why we haven't had a mosquito problem. We've had no rain. We've had very little rain for the summer. I was just gonna water my garden too, and I thought, nah. I knew it was supposed to rain, but anyway, it rained a little bit. I don't know, suckers bite. I wonder if I should go close my window in my bathroom because I think they're getting in there. It's the only way they can get in. I don't have any holes in none of my screens. It's got to be that. Yeah, the little brats, they push the corner open on the screen so they can get in and out. I gotta fix it. I never think of it. They've been very mild this year until now. Yeah. I mean, just when it rained, all of a sudden the mosquitoes came out. I don't know. I thought it took 10 days to hatch, not 10 minutes. But anyway, yeah. You know what else? Thank God the wood ticks have not been bad either. We had them in the spring, and that was it. I don't think any of my dogs have had a wood tick, and I haven't had one for. None of us have had a wood tick for about 2 months, which is really nice because we got Lyme's disease up here. We're in the Lyme's disease capital, so that's not good. Yeah. Well, I am. We're gonna go over something kind of cool here. Hold on a second. I really do have to shut that window. I'm picturing all of it. I think the light attracts mosquitoes too. I'm out in the middle of nowhere and there's no light to the next house. Down the way a little bit. All right, well. All right, let me get this over here. There we go. All right. This is actually a video that is talking about the documentary hypothesis and trying to decide if it is literally two stories that have been redacted into one in Genesis 1 and 2. I'm sorry. He's more talking about the flood, the two flood stories being redacted into one. But he also mentions the creation story. And in this video, like I said, this is a channel called IP, which stands for Inspiring Philosophy. Now I'm gonna show this video because it is very interesting. I'm not going to show the video. We're going to go through about 2 minutes of it, piece by piece, because this is the rest is all about the two creation stories, which we have gone over already. Don't need to do that again. So hold on a second. Get one more book. One more Bible will get me up that right there. All right. So, and I actually, you know what? Okay, I'll put up a link to this video from Inspiring Philosophy. Here is the video that I'm putting it in the link in the description. I mean, in the comment section over here in the chat section. So just put the link right there. I was just listening to something last night where the guy claims to have written evidence of 3 different floods dating back to antiquity. Well, okay, so I got it. You know what? That's interesting. There's not just 3 different flood stories, but I was let me shut this off so it quits doing that. I was going to mention that too. So I was listening to a video today of a guy that was explaining how there are different, like, okay, so did everybody steal the flood story from Gilgamesh or from Mesopotamia before that, you know, whatever? Like, was there one original story that everybody kind of copied off? Or, as we saw, we just went a couple days ago, we went over all those different cultures that have their own flood story. This culture, that culture, this culture, that culture. So there seems to be, in ancient times, going back as far as you can, there are flood stories, no matter where you lived in the world. Now, I don't believe that the whole world ever gets flooded. I don't believe that anymore, because the person writing has no idea. You would not know. I wouldn't even know. I live in Minnesota. I wouldn't even know if my whole state was underwater, and neither would you. As far as my eye could see, there's water. But for all I know, it could go on 10 miles and then there's land everywhere. I'm the only one flooded. Or maybe it could go, you know what I mean? So they have no idea how far, if the whole world was flooded. But anyway, the guy was saying the reason every single culture has a flood story is because every single culture has been flooded. That's simple. At one point in time, there's been a flood in most areas. And maybe it only happens once every 500 years, or maybe it only happened once or whatever in history, but every culture has been flooded. And when that happens, it's traumatic, it's life-changing. Everybody's wiped out, or they have to start over or whatever. So it goes down in history, not like a tornado or a earthquake or a hurricane or something, but a flood. When a flood wipes out a whole community, that goes down in their history, campfire stories or whatever you want to call them, folklore. That's something that is handed down generation to generation, how their ancestors were in the flood, and then they had to, if anybody survived, how they had to restart over. Then we saw the other ones that were myths, or whatever they were, with just different kind of weird stuff in there too. But anyway, so I do believe that, I believe that every culture has a different kind of a flood story, because every culture's had some type of a flood. As a matter of fact, so up here where I live in Hinckley, Minnesota, and my town was burnt to the ground. I think it was like in the late 1800s. This whole county was burned down. All the little towns around here, it wiped out hundreds of acres. So the couple towns around here were burnt to the ground. Well, that goes down in history forever. And that was quite a long time ago, but we have a fire museum. They've got an obelisk for the fire victims. And there's stories after stories that have been recorded about the big fire the Hinckley fire, and there's a monument. There's all, you know what I mean? So this story is going to go on for generations. It already has gone on generations and generations. Like probably the last people, the great grandmother that was, you know, some people jumped in the pond. They would jump in the lake or the river to try to live and not be burned. Anyway, I've already heard a lot of stories. I've only been up here 5 years, and there's anyway. So you can imagine when something traumatizing like that happens in the whole community. Yeah, they talk about it just like the fire. It's been 100 years, or I don't even know how long that was, but they're still. It's very fresh. I mean, so anyway, I believe when something wipes out a big community, many towns, the same tragedy or the same, you know, whether it's weather or whatever, fire, weather, flood. Yeah, I believe that just gets repeated. It really goes down in history. So I'm going to show you guys something that I came across when I was studying the 2 flood stories in Genesis and the documented hypothesis and people who are for it and against it. I came across this cool little gem here, which I've never seen. I've never seen anybody compare Genesis creation story to the Genesis flood story. Crazy. So here we go. All right. And you know, and if there is multiple flood stories, which there is, that would account why, while Genesis is saying that the whole world's flooded out, all these other civilizations are still going on without a beat. I've showed the list of people, of the civilizations that were not flooded out during that time. What was it? 2000, 3000 BC, or whatever it was. When that flood happened, according to Genesis, during that time, because they have an exact time when it happened, the date. Well, during that time, there's records of other civilizations getting by just fine, not flooding at all. And then their flood was a different time. So yeah, the times don't match up. One person's flood's not the same time as another person's flood. That too in itself should kind of help explain. So let me get up a little bit closer. Actually, I could just move this in closer. All right. So check this out. We're going to compare the flood story to Genesis 1 in the creation story. So, all right. So in both accounts, here's Genesis over here, the flood. I mean, I'm sorry. The flood is on this side. I'm looking at the wrong one over here. Genesis on this screen here that we're looking at. Genesis here, the creation story, Genesis 1 through 3, has the creation stories in it. Here's the Genesis 8 and 9, which has the flood. Now watch the similarities, how they go side by side. Now, in both accounts divine winds. All right, so in both accounts, divine winds. I've lost my. Both accounts, divine winds push the water, blocking up the waters in a parallel. The separation of waters in the dry land appears, then is followed in both by vegetation. So as you can see, in Genesis 1, when God creates the world, it starts out with a watery chaos. Remember, the water was chaotic. Well, in Genesis 7, the flood starts out in a watery chaos. Then a divine wind kicks up. Divine wind kicks up, both of them. Then there is a separation of the waters, which is in the creation story. and a blocking of the waters in the flood story. Then in the creation story, dry land appears in Genesis 1:9. And over here in Genesis 8:5, dry land appears there too, same order. Then in Genesis 1 and in Genesis 8, the birds are sent out and the dove returns. All right. Right here. Wait, move this a little bit. All right. So after the vegetation, then the creation of birds in the creation story, and the dove leaves in that. So that you got a bird and a bird. In Genesis 1, we see the creation of land animals, while in Genesis 8, humans. Both are followed by the same command to be fruitful and multiply. So, remember when Noah lands the ark is opened. I'll get that off the screen. So the creation of birds, the dove leaves. The creation of animals, the ark is opened with animals. The command was given in Genesis 1 to be fruitful and multiply. And after the ark is opened, Noah's 3 sons and daughters were commanded to go forth and multiply, or be fruitful and multiply. Now, in Genesis 1 through 3, after yeah. Okay. And if we build on this, what we just saw, we can note that Joshua, there is a covenant made, not Joshua, John. The covenant presented in Genesis 1, there's a covenant with humanity. In Genesis 9, in the creation story, there's a covenant, 1:27 to 30. And in the flood story, there's a covenant with humanity. Now, once there's creation in Genesis 2:8, you have Adam in the garden. And in Genesis 9, after the flood, you have Noah in the garden. Remember, the first thing he does is he plants a vineyard. First thing Adam does is plants a garden. Noah plants a vineyard. So Adam is known as man of the ground, and Noah is known as man of the soil. It says both have their senses affected and have a tempter in the story. So as you can see, what happens? So Adam is the man of the ground. Noah is man of the soil. In Genesis, the creation story, they're corrupted by fruit when they eat of the tree. And Noah himself is corrupted by fruit when he drank the wine and got drunk. Adam and Eve realize that they are naked. The nakedness comes about. And after the flood, after Noah is drunk, tempted by the fruit and drunk, he ends up naked. The fruit ends up affecting his senses of Adam, and the fruit ends up affecting the senses of Noah. Both of them have a tempter. Genesis has a tempter, the serpent, and Noah also has a tempter. After that happens, the tempter's offspring is cursed. So Adam and Eve, their offspring is cursed after the temptation of the fruit. And after the flood, Noah's temptation of the fruit and his drunkenness and his nakedness, The tempter's offspring is cursed, just like the creation story. Adam and Eve's child is cursed. Their offspring is cursed. The tempter's offspring is cursed in Noah's case. Next, you have Adam. I'm trying to see if we can see that. The line's in the way a little bit. Now, the offspring's being cursed here. They both had their senses affected by the fruit. Hard for me to see this keyboard. And the offspring ends up being cursed on in both cases, with the both having their nakedness covered. Genesis 8 to 9 parallels the plot structure of Genesis 1 to 3. And then they go into that too. I did put the link up for this video. So let's do it side by side. Genesis 1 to 3 starts with the watery chaos, divine wind, separation of the waters, blocking the waters, dry land appears, vegetation, creation of birds, the dove leaves, the creation of animals, the ark is opened. Command to be fruitful and multiply is given in both cases. And then they compare it to the Gilgamesh story, which we already did, that we did this exact same thing. So, yeah, I'm going to, like I said, I put the link up for this. If you want to see the side-by-side comparisons. Here, compared, hold on a second. There you go. So, yeah, the link for this is in the, there's the differences there. Vegetation. There you go. Just so in case you missed it, there's some animals. The ark is open. Because we just went over both these, the creation story and the flood story. So I think the similarities are very interesting. Then I will show you one more time the order, covenant with humanity. Noah in the garden, Adam in the garden. Adam is man of the ground, Noah is man of the ground. Adam's corrupted by fruit, Noah's corrupted by fruit. Adam's naked, Noah's naked. Affects his senses, both get affected their senses, both are tempters, both offspring is cursed, and so on. So let me stop that if I can. Oops, there you go. There is the list, second list. Anyway, that's all I kind of wanted to go over tonight. I'm just checking out my stream there, comparing. Okay, now I'm gonna get back in my chat because anyway, so you could go through and expand on those if you want. I need to shut that off so I can get back over here. All right. Anyway, yeah, so when Grace said she just listened to something last night, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I want to put up the link too. I did put up the link. That is a really interesting video. They've got kind of a case for and against the documentary hypothesis in this case with the, it was more about the flood here. In fact, get back over here. It was more about the about the flood stories. But anyway, he's got an interesting channel. There it is. It's got an interesting channel there. But this was called There Are... Oh, sorry, I just hit my finger on that. This is called Are There Two Flood Stories in Genesis? The guy I was referring to claims to have written documentation from flood survivors. Really? That's really cool. So yeah, because I believe that different regions got flooded at different times, which is why you've got different timelines all over the place. And I also, my own opinion, I do believe that they kind of stretched out they stretched out Noah's age, and maybe Adam's age. I think they're stretching these people out to live to be 700, 800, 900 years old, so they could account for the differences, you know what I mean? Because I think one source is writing in a different time, and in order to blend these stories together, these people have to be hundreds of years old. Because if Kathy is in a story in the 1600s, and now Kathy's in a story in 2023, wait a minute, how do you explain that? Well, actually, back then, people lived 900 years, really. Yeah, back then she lived. Actually, Kathy lived to be 600 years old. Oh well, that accounts for the big space and time that's missing, and the contradictions in the date. Oh, okay. So she was alive in the 1600s and the 2023. Yep, they just did stuff different back then. Like I said, I guess yeah, hard to believe a body could even hold out a couple hundred years, let alone that long a time. Skeleton just ain't cut out for that. Anyway, yeah, you know what though, if you're like into Christianity or certain religions, well, yes, and she's still alive today. You're right, she's still alive today. How do you figure that? She's like 700 years old now. How can she still be alive? Well, people born back then just lived that long. Yeah, okay. I'll just take that your word for it. Yeah. But yeah, I do believe that's why you got different flood stories at different times in history. Otherwise it wouldn't work. Yeah. Well, that is kind of cool. So I wonder if any of those stories, I don't know if you're here the other night, Grace, we went over the flood stories from different in fact, here, let me pull that up. From different, if I can, from different timelines, different let me see if I can find that. I think, I don't know, 3 days ago or something. There was like 6 different flood stories, maybe 8, from different cultures. And I wonder if the guy that he's referring to with the flood stories, I wonder if they match up to any of these that we went over. In fact, I will show you. Hey, let's see. Yeah, still humid. It's cooling down though. We're gonna be in the 40s here at night, for as far as I can see now. All right, where is it? Ancient here, right here. This right here. Ancient flood stories from around the world. This was when 2 days ago. Actually, I think it was 3 nights ago. This 1 night ago, 2 nights ago, 3 nights ago. This must have been Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, this must have been Saturday. We went over the ancient flood stories from around the world. You watched the replay? Yeah. So this one here has multiple flood stories from different cultures, which makes sense because, yeah, at some point, you know, there's a big flood probably in every country. You know, and they didn't have news and stuff like that. This kind of, you know, folklore and everything out. It gets handed down from family members to the children, to their children, children, and they just keep these stories alive. You know, the Native Americans still do that. Probably the best way to preserve history. So I tell you what, if they could, now everything's on computer and digital, so they could change history. They could wipe history out and write new stuff because people aren't writing things down on pen and paper, and they're not passing lots of stories on to their grandchildren about history and stuff like that, the real stuff that we know about. And so it just kind of gets lost. In fact, that friend of mine, she's retired from the Air Force, and her friends wrote a book because they wanted to, because they know they're in their 80s and 90s, and the ones that are still alive, about their service in the military. And like, because she was a flight nurse and her husband was a pilot, and they went through wars and everything. And she said if they don't write things down in a book, it's probably going to get lost because everything's recorded on computers and digital now. And if that stuff goes, there's not going to be any record of what happened. So they wrote their own book. What I don't get is how we are constantly told about the 100-year flood, but never hear anything about the 100-year fire. How many cities have burned down? Yeah, I know. Yeah, this whole area is wiped out, and it is every sign of arson you can imagine. And then what happens? Just like Maui, well, the government will take over their land, and they'll just they'll find something to do with it. Don't worry, guys. It's like, huh? It seems like this fire was set. This one up here. I don't know. It's very suspicious. 2 fires started each on one side of the county. One on the east side of the county, or one on the north and one on the south. But anyway, opposite ends of the county, 2 fires start. The winds are blowing one towards the middle, and the other one's getting blown towards the middle too. So, I mean, anyway, very suspicious. Anyway, and remember Chicago burned down? I was just thinking about this the other day. When I was in Girl Scouts, I was in Brownie and then Girl Scouts. When I was a little kid, I was in Girl Scouts, and we had a campfire song, and it was about Chicago burning down. This was a Girl Scout song, and it was something like, it was about how Chicago burned down. It said it was about Mrs. O'Leary's cow, and something, the cow was in the barn, and the lantern, something about the cow kicked over the lantern. And this is what the cow said: there'll be a hot time in the old time tonight. Fire, fire, fire. That's what they'd say. Chicago, Paris, yeah. Yes, Mrs. O'Leary, the cow kicked, Mrs. O'Leary sat down the lantern. The cow kicked it over, and this is what she said: there'll be a hot time in the old town tonight. Fire, fire, fire. As little Girl Scouts, they taught us this. This is how Chicago burned down, guys. Yeah, so a cow kicked over a lantern. Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked the lantern over, burnt the whole Chicago down by a lantern and a cow. And that way you can't really blame anybody. It's the cow's fault. What are you going to yell at the cow? Can't. It's nobody's fault. It's just the cow. The cow probably died anyway. So, no, nothing to see here, folks. Nobody to blame. It was just a cow. Well, how do you know it's a cow? Well, because of the song. The song said there was a cow kicked the lantern over. It's Miss O'Leary's cow, actually. Who's Miss O'Leary? I don't know. She died in the fire. Don't worry about it. Well, that sounds suspicious. No, it's not. That happens. Hmm. Anyway, I would like to go to that fire museum up in town and like start asking questions on a video. Because I would think I would probably have to say, this, because when you go to the fire museum, the lady will tell you how the whole county burnt down. I saw it on a video. I saw it on YouTube. You can look it up. In fact, I'll show you. This town that I live in, the whole county burnt down. I think it was in the late 1800s. I don't know, but the only way out was horses, and the horses were out coughing from the smoke and stuff. So you had the train. And there's a train station. I was just at the train station a couple days ago. I was just there. There's no train station there. It's just a little tourist thing or whatever. But there is a so there's a tourist lady that runs that works at the museum, and she'll tell you how the whole town burnt down by 2 fires that got started. Oh, I guess it's 100 years old. So cows are crazy creatures. Apparently they start fires and flying tornadoes. Yeah. Here it is. There is this is in town. That's the mass graves. And guess what? There's an obelisk there. Here's the fire museum in town. So 4 years ago, they just had the 100th anniversary of the Minnesota's deadliest disaster, which was this town. And then the guy, so there is the hero in this story is this guy. Piggy Pork Chop. Look at whose channel it is. His name is Piggy Pork Chop. Yeah, them cows, you gotta watch out, man. They can start arson fires and get away with it. The Great Hinckley Fire, 1894, Hinckley, Minnesota. Firestorm. Yeah, it's that. So I was just at that museum in the parking lot. I didn't go inside. Anyway, crazy. Yeah, they got stuff up here talking about this. So they got a museum. That's where the and this guy, he's the hero, the train guy. So in town, there's the train tracks. I've showed you guys. I've gone over it. It's weird seeing my town on here, but anyway. So this guy that runs the train station, he was getting people on the train and getting them out of town, and then he saw that the fire was just too close, and his last words were, "I think I've waited too long," and then he burned alive in the train station. But he was the hero, because there's always a hero. 1894. Yeah, I think I should go to this fire museum. It's in town, and they're only open seasonal for the tourists. This is a tourist town up here, but I would like to go in there and just ask some questions. But yeah, the whole town was wiped out. Well, anyway. Yeah, that's what they do. They wipe out the town. And then they build it back, It's called Phoenix Rising from the Ashes. That's what happens. They build it down and start over the way they want it to be run by the people they want it to be run by. And they get their pick of any place they want to live. Just like those Maui fires, I guess the first thing the government came out and said, well, it is a total loss, and they had it so where like the people don't get paid for their houses that burnt down, so they can't like rebuild. So nothing to do but have the government figure out what to do with the land. Oh, we'll figure out something. Anyway, it's terrible. Now, you know what? The lady that came over to my house, she came over to buy something, and she was saying that all these kids, they purposely in Hawaii, I'm sorry, I just got distracted. Anyway, they said that they, on the day that the fires happened, they had all the kids stay home from school. So when the parents went to work, she said they kidnapped all the children. Anyway, she was also the one saying Trump, all this Trump stuff. Anyway, she's drinking the Kool-Aid. They will build back better. Yes, they will. Yes, they do. BBB, build back better. That's what they said when the Twin Towers went down, right? They'll build back better. I think that's when it was. One of those times. Yep. Anyway, crazy. Them crazy cows. But yep, they wiped this place down, and yeah, built back, and it's we have a little of course there's Freemason lodges here and everywhere. Every town has one. But they have another thing called the Odd Fellows. It's like a branch of the Freemasons, Odd Fellows. And yeah. The guy that built this house here I'm sitting in, he was one of the Odd Fellows. Anyway, weird. Well, I will get off of here and say goodnight. I'll get back to my painting. We will build back better. Yes. Wasn't that Obama that said that? Or who was it? I can't remember. Or George Bush. Can't remember. Anyway, oh, you know, the Dreamweaver guy died. Remember I just used his song in my video on my other channel? I just used that Dreamweaver. The last video I think it was the last video I did. Can't remember. On my other channel, I used the Dreamweaver song. Gary Wright, he just died yesterday, I think. Hey, Omar, good to see you too. God bless you too. Yeah, the Dreamweaver guy died. The one that sings Dreamweaver. That was back in the 70s. In fact, that song came out, I was probably 11 or 12 years old. One of my favorites, anyway. So, R.I.P. to Gary Wright and the Dreamweaver singer guy. And good to see you tonight, Omar. I hope you had a great day. I'm signing off and saying good night, but I'm glad to see you. Glad to see you stop in and say hi. Hope your day went well. Your Tuesday. Hope everybody has an awesome hump day tomorrow. It's already the middle of the week. It's not crazy because it seems like Monday. So, yep, tomorrow is already the midweek, and I hope you all have a great day. And you're going to Denny's breakfast Friday night? Really? It's been so long since I ate there. You know what's really weird? The Denny's that I used to go to, I was down in the cities, right in my old neighborhood where I grew up in Maplewood, and I was at the stoplight looking at the Denny's I always used to go to, and there's grass growing in the cracks in the parking lot. And a car pulled up, and I saw them get out and pull on the door. It's closed. The Denny's is out of business, the one I used to go to before I came up here. So, anyway, the Denny's that I always went to for many years is out of business. I saw it for myself. Anyway, well, enjoy your Denny's breakfast on Friday morning. It sounds delicious already. You said Dreamweaver, and I automatically think of someone. I know, right? You think of him before Gary Wright. Before the guy who sang Dreamweaver, you'll think of somebody else. Yes, Mr. Dreamweaver himself. Anyway, well, Omar, enjoy your wonderful Denny's breakfast. Oh, I love a breakfast. I love breakfast. eggs, hash browns, pancakes. Sounds delicious. Anyway, thanks for coming in, guys. Hope to see you tomorrow night, and if not, anyway, I hope to see you next time. And if you're listening on the replay, thanks for listening on the replay. Anybody that came in and listened, thank you so much. And breakfast is good anytime. I know. Yep, I like breakfast for dinner. We love you guys.